Hey, do you have any idea what you've done?
I do. But if you'd like to share your thoughts, please.
Her full name is Homura Akemi, and her story is probably the #1 best use of time travel in any narrative ever. I don't think that there's anything that comes close. It is just uncontested when it comes to pure execution and polish. So, before I get into the well-oiled electric chair that is Madoka Magica, I want to first get into the dull guillotine that is Avengers Endgame. The biggest problem with Endgame and a lot of other franchises using time travel is it's divorced from the actual story. It's used as a tool to kill stakes as opposed to one that intensifies them. Especially Endgame specifically, they introduce rules that specifically negate all of the conflict and tension of time travel and remove all of the consequences and therefore stakes involved with time travel. I'm sure the butterfly effect comes to mind, and how Endgame just kind of says that's not how things work. But beyond that, narratively, there's no reason not to go back in time for Endgame. It fixes everything. Nobody's life is better off because of the snap. Nobody's readjusted after the years and built a solid, peaceful life. Nobody's happy with what they have, and so therefore nobody is unhappy with undoing all of it. Nobody is unhappy with disrespecting the dead and, coming to peace with whatever's going on. Everybody's cool with just undoing everything. And because of this, there's not a lot of tension for Endgame. There's not a lot of consequences. Madoka, on the other hand, doesn't use time travel as a get-out-of-jail-free card. It doesn't use it as a godsend. It doesn't make everyone's life happy or fix everyone's problem. In fact, the way that it's presented in Madoka, time travel is... There's something so special about the way that Madoka introduces intrigue here. Akemi is the first magical girl we even meet before we even know what a magical girl is, but at this point, it already feels unnerving. You get the sense that something is off about the show right away, even though it's very quickly taken away from you by the warm atmosphere and the slice of life dialogue and just generally how chill things go for the next 3-ish episodes. It expects you to forget what happens. Everything being so colorful and nice and charming after this point is a tool to make you feel like Madoka, to make it so the second time you see Akemi, it's the same faint memory Madoka has, where it's the slight dim, oh, she's from the dream thing. It's not just immersive storytelling, it's the blueprint for every encounter with her moving forward. She becomes a passing acquaintance not just for Madoka, but for you, the audience member. And to me, that's... Her full name is Homura Akemi. And whenever she does show up, it's never pleasant. She comes off as an overly competitive jerk who's always out for herself. And whenever she's at school, she knows all the answers and outperforms everybody. She's super pretentious. She grimaces at all the other magical girls when they're outside of school. And she doesn't really engage in conversation unless it's to tell Madoka to give up. to tell her to stop chasing her dream of being a magical girl. And although there's few moments with, brief compassion, it's always a brief, bare minimum of, well, they killed the witch so they can keep the greed seed, which is duh, they killed the witch, so they should be able to keep it. It's never an extension of genuine concern or even emotion towards the cast. That's not to say that that's all there is to her character, or even that the audience is led there to believe that. It's just that every moment is laced with an underlying subtext that we never quite grasp. Her full name is Homura Akemi, and I Won't Rely on You Anymore is a 25-minute narrative vignette solely on Akemi. Finally, we start to get a little bit more context. Initially, she was actually very shy. She was very reserved and not very good at a lot of things. She was homesick for a lot of the year, and so she was academically behind and physically behind. However, being a transfer student, a lot of people were curious about her. The only first person to show her any genuine curiosity or kindness would be Madoka, and that's where she started to blossom a little bit of feelings for her and a little bit of an obsession that we'll get into later. But the main thing is that in this episode, she starts swirling with negative thoughts related to her being held back so long. She starts getting a little bit TOS-y about herself. And so, she is then swarmed by a labyrinth. A witch appears, and she is saved by the main cast. Mami, Madoka, Miku, whatever the fuck the blue one is. Regardless, they save her, and everybody is safe and happy and goes out for tea and enjoys themselves until the second witch appears. That's right. Another labyrinth appears, and Akemi this time comes along just kind of in training, I think. I don't know if it's totally super well explained, but she is there nonetheless, and she watches as all of her friends die, and unfortunately, she is left under the care and supervision of QB, a malicious wish-granting demon, which then offers her one wish and says, hey, if you are willing to sell your soul and become a magical girl, you just sign the fine print at the bottom, then I will grant any wish. And that is when Akemi says,
I wish I could meet Miss Kaname all over again. But this time, instead of her protecting me, I want to be strong enough to protect her!
Her full name is Homura Akemi, and she watches her friends die over and over and over again. Us as the audience, we get the treat of watching her make those friends and then lose those friends over and over and over until Madoka dies, and then she resets the time loop and does it all over again. And suddenly, all the pieces start to fall into place as to why Akemi is like this, why she's so effortlessly good at everything, why she's so cold and resentful to everybody, why she comes off as so pretentious. It's because she is cold and calculating. Not only has she seen all of this before, but she's become an expert. She does all the math problems fluently because she's seen all of them before. She clears that bar with ease because she has so much practice, and she doesn't invest a lot of time socially with the other magical girls because she knows if she does, they die. And if she doesn't, they die. And so her main focus is on Madoka, that first girl who gave her kindness, and so she is more focused on making sure Madoka does not become a magical girl. And this does a lot for death in the show. The main criticism I was talking about with Avengers Endgame is it undercuts all of the death that happens up until that point by giving you a get out of jail free card. But with Magical Madoka, death is already hammered in as something permanent and something visceral and hard to watch. You get to watch the colorful characters that you grown to love flop lifelessly on the floor. You watch the life leave them and watch them become an object, and it's heart-wrenching. But what Akemi does for the narrative doesn't just cement death as permanent, but emphasizes it as inevitable. Her full name is Homura Akemi, and I think what makes Madoka overall so interesting as its portrayal of time travel is that time travel isn't a blessing to Akemi. It's a burden. It is a curse because her own guilt and her own sense of responsibility and her own ultimate sense of duty to Madoka leads her down a path of torment as she just watches over and over and over as the girl that she loves dies over and over and over. And I think that that's what makes time travel such a good narrative tool here, is that it's not just a narrative device. It is a painful reminder that the characters, they don't get what they want 100% of the time. And in fact, every attempt that they have to get the thing that they want is just another opportunity for the writer to leave them with less than they had before. And I know that this has been a different sort of style video. Well, not necessarily. This is about the same as like the Eddie one. It's just a little bit more focused, a little bit more scripted. You could probably tell I was looking at the script a few times in the shots. I'm trying to get better. I didn't have a lot of time to record this, or a lot of time to edit it, which you probably didn't know because you did such a good job. I know, I'm so amazing. But, ignoring that, I will see you guys on Friday. This, just let me know how you liked it. I think I did a good job, but that's not really up to me. That's more up to you. So, have a good one.